This is a demonstration of how color spaces, both the color space of a document and the gray color space in Photoshop, affect the red, green, and blue gray channels and all channel operations. To do the demonstration, I've preloaded 3 images. The first image is this rather colorful and highly saturated image because it helps demonstrate these differences more dramatically than one that is less saturated and less contrast. The second image is the same image in sRGB. To get the second image, all I did was take the first, duplicate it, and can do an edit convert color space to sRGB. So I toggle back and forth between the two. You can see that visually there's no difference on the screen. However, if you look in this area here, I've created a color patch simply by creating a selection and doing a filter average blur, and put a color picker on that. If we look down in the color picker section, info section, we'll see the RGB values between Adobe 98 and sRGB change. That should not be a surprise. That's the difference in color spaces. But now to demonstrate the other differences, let's go back to the Adobe 98 version, go to the Channels palette, and let's pick the red channel and display it. With the red channel displayed, go to Edit, Color Settings, and look at the gray color setting. It says dot grain 20%. That is the default for Photoshop. If you reset preferences or you pick a default setting, you'll get dot gain 20%. Until a few months ago, I didn't even know what that was and didn't pay much attention to it, and I suspect most people don't, because it did not appear to have any effect on anything you do. But let's look at some of the other options and watch what happens to this red channel. Dot gain 25%. It gets darker. Dot gain 30%. It gets darker still. Then there's a gray gamma 1.8, which is different, and a gray gamma 2.2, which is different. The point here is that it is what you see is what you get. If you control click on one of your gray channels, if you copy one of your gray channels, red, green, or blue, and use it as a layer for some special operation or technique, what you see is what you get, and what you get will differ quite widely depending on what gray color space you have set. Now let's look at another way that color spaces cause variations in these gray channels. This is the Adobe 98 version of the document with the red channel displayed. I'll go up to the tab palette and pick the sRGB version of the document and display its red channel. Now I'm going to toggle back and forth. Adobe 98, sRGB. Adobe 98, sRGB. Quite a difference in the channels. Let's go in the green channel of sRGB and compare that to the green channel of Adobe 98. Adobe 98, sRGB. Adobe 98, sRGB. Not much difference in the green channels. Let's go to the blue channel. Now we have the blue channel of Adobe 98, sRGB. Adobe 98, sRGB. There are a wide variety of techniques and tutorials that you can find that use channel operations for a variety of things. A number may have you copy a red, green, or blue channel and place it as a new layer on top of a layer stack, change its blending mode for some special effect. And there are quite a number of masking tutorials and techniques that involve grabbing red, green, or blue channel, maybe perhaps running it through calculations commands to multiply it times itself to generate a high contrast mask to be used. The demonstration here will show that you will get different results depending upon the color space of your gray working space and the color space of your document. To demonstrate that, I'll go to the third document I have loaded here, which is a very typical landscape scene with no sky. So I'd like to replace that sky with something more interesting, which means a very difficult masking job around all of the trees. The typical approach to this task using channels is to go to the Channels palette, which I have displayed, and then go through the channels looking for the one with the highest contrast. If we do that here, the red channel, the green channel, and the blue channel, we can clearly see that the blue channel has the highest contrast. I'm going to blow this up to 100% so we can look at the trees and look at that again. Red channel, green channel, blue channel. It's clear that while the blue channel has the highest contrast, it's still not very good, but let's see if we can make it better. I'm going to go to Edit, Color Settings, and look at this gray color setting and cycle through a few. If I started with the dot grain 20% default and go to 25, it gets darker. If I go to 30, it gets darker yet. And if I go to gamma 1.8, not quite so dark. Gamma 2.2, not quite so dark. So dot grain 30 is the darkest. But there's yet another option. Selecting this, I can go to Custom Gamma and just type in a number. I'll type in 3 and it gets darker yet. Turns out Custom Gamma will not go higher than 3. If you try to go to 4, you get an error that says you must be between 0 and 3. But notice how it is even darker yet. On this image, I'm going to go back to the Layers palette where I've built a group with a lot of channels copied in under the different settings so we can go through them very quickly. Blue channel at dot grain 20% in sRGB mode. Blue channel dot grain 30% sRG mode, darker yet. But now I also, in a previous version, shifted this to the Pro Photo color space and so left the dot grain at 30. And notice the Pro Photo color space makes it even darker yet. And then if I go to Pro Photo and Custom Gamma 3, I get almost a perfect mask. Just a little bit of tweaking would be needed to change this into a perfect mask. Using this version as a mask, first I'm going to turn off this channel, and a lot of other additional tweaks to that mask, some levels, some curves, a little bit of choking, and some other techniques to refine the mask. I was able to create a new sky that looks quite well. That is the end of the demonstration. I hope it is helpful for those who are either developing techniques or trying to follow techniques tutorials by others that use channel masks. Rarely do you see this mentioned, that the color space of both the document and the gray working space can have a significant effect on your results.